Assalamu alaikum ji, thank you and hello, this is Usman Nasir at the TechSavvy booth at IDC in Lahore for 2022. Great show this year, mashallah say, and we are extremely excited how the tech ecosystem in the country has sprang up again after the 2 years of COVID and that lack of activity. But now here we are again and ready to go. With me in this panel today, we'll be discussing the digital transformation on the government end, and we'll be discussing the digital transformation on the private sector end and how the ecosystem is evolving. With me, we have Chairman Pakistan Software Houses Association, Badr Khushnood. We have Secretary General Pakistan Software Houses Association, Ms. Hira Zainab. And with me, let me introduce to you the Chief Commercial Officer who have recently joined at Pakistan Software Export Board, Mr. Zishan Rahman Khattak, with a lot of experience in wealth management and private equity, both of tech and non-tech and family wealth offices. He has joined us to be working on commercial initiatives. Also have joined us recently Chief Industry Development Officer, Mr. Sayyid Ayub Shah Saab. Ayub Shah has been instrumental on a lot of ends in digital transformation in Pak Army, later onwards in Federal Public Service Commission. He is a security specialist as well, and a thorough technology expert and the training sides of things and the infrastructure side of things. Thank you, panel. It's great to have you here. So we'll be discussing, and we'll be starting with Ayub Shah Saab, and we'll be discussing about the digital transformation in the government sector. For the past 2 weeks since you have landed in TechSavvy, and you are leading the efforts on integrating the TechSavvy website with PRAL, and you're integrating it with NADRA and with SECP. So I'll ask you of this experience, what have you found in this whole experience, the readiness of the different government departments? This was unheard of probably 3 years ago, 2 years ago. It would have been totally impossible to do. We would have been doing some hard point coding into the databases, into the systems itself. But now we are talking about open APIs. So there is a journey, and there is a visible journey, and there is a will at the government institution. How have you found it, and what is still the areas that you see which need some further betterment?
Bismillah, sir. It has been a wonderful and fascinating to see this kind of integration, which is near impossible in a country like Pakistan with the strictest regulations in place. As a matter of fact, we are designing and putting in place in reality a kind of a system whereby a single entry onto a government portal, onto a government system, will make you populate the entrance data onto all other stakeholders' portals. And this kind of population meaning one window operation in reality. This kind of integration means just one interface and facilitation of the business by many leaps and frogs. Not a single leap, it's a big leap for the country like us, and I will say there are many leaps. So there are wonderful things happening, and I must say that this kind of digital transformation and enabling environment is contributing towards the ecosystem that we need in order to take our software industry and IT industry to the next level. Pakistan Software Export Board is doing enormous things under your leadership, as a matter of fact, and we are seeing this kind of, I mean, the most stubborn departments that I saw responding and coming in line with us and responding to our call, the NADRA, the software, the SECP, and then of course the PRAL, the revenue people, which are the most stubborn people. These policies, these kind of acceleration, these kinds of interventions are wonderful, sir. And we need to keep them going on in other sectors and replicate them in other sectors. And unless we transform onto an e-government system wherein the citizens are facilitated, wherein the businesses ordinarily are facilitated, and extendedly the IT businesses are facilitated, we shall never be able to embark upon the intended objectives of leading the world by serving the world in technically exceeding manner. So these are wonderful things happening, and they're really fascinating, and they're the good news for the people.
So Ayub, I'll come back to you on several other topics as well, and several other ideas that we've been continuously bouncing with each other. Zishan Saab, now, so you seeing on the other end, you're seeing how the financial industry is going to come together, and that integration is going to help that particular industry, and in turn they are going to provide finance to the IT industry so that we can expand our business not only in Pakistan but abroad as well. So you are talking to the State Life of Pakistan, you're talking to Bank of Punjab, you're talking to National Bank, you're talking to Pakistan Exim Bank. How have you found the overall response? How have you found the eagerness? And how have you found how easy or difficult the whole journey can be in front of us?
Assalamu alaikum. What I have observed in Pakistan in our IT sector is that our IT companies, a lot of them are in dire need of capital. And we see in the developed IT sectors in Western economies that there is a whole cycle that has already been in place for the last decade or more actually, where the need of IT industry is met by the capital markets, and then they are able to expand their scope and scale. They are able to take on bigger projects, and they are able to actually spend money on their R&D and come up with new technologies which actually help in revenue generation and the growth of those industries. What we are doing right now is we are trying to create an infrastructure, a financial infrastructure for IT industry in Pakistan, where our IT industries are able to, we are talking to the banks as well to customize products which which IT industry is in need of, which will meet their demands. So there are various things. We want to make sure that IT industry is there is a rating of IT industries, there's valuation of IT industries, so that banks and financial institutions can actually see what is the credit rating of such IT industries, and based on that they can impart loans to the industry, give them customized products. On the other end, we are also talking to insurance companies. We are asking them to create customized products for the IT industry, where health insurance, life insurance can also be provided to IT practitioners, companies, freelancers. This is another thing. Then when it comes to exports of IT industry, in some cases our IT companies are unable to take on big projects because of the lack of capital. So we have involved Exim Bank, other banks in collaboration with Exim Bank, such as Bank of Punjab, NBP initially, and we are trying to create a product which actually we have seen a lot of headways in it, which will help enable IT companies to bid for big projects globally to deliver, and then the risk is equally shared, and obviously then the banks are paid off, and eventually these IT industries are able to export their services and goods, and which help in their growth and development as well. So these are various things we are doing. Other than that, we are trying to get all these international and local private equity firms to get involved, to take risk on our promising IT products and services, and to help them grow and then share in the benefits that these IT industries can reap from that. And obviously the ROI when it comes to an IT product or services surpasses any other industry in the market. So this is a very promising investment for the capital markets and the banks. So these are few things we are working on, and inshallah in near future, the way we are going, we'll see the results of that as well.
Thank you. So here I'll open up with you on your previous experience in education sector, digitizing the education sector. You've done wonders there, and then how you have done that, and what you have found then 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and what do you feel the readiness of that education industry, especially after COVID, going through that whole experience, the whole academia that's gone through that process. How do you feel the readiness now as far as their digital transformation? And then now you're part of the wider IT industry, and now you're looking at the other commercial aspect. So from that perspective, how do you found the overall other industries, the banks, the pharmas and whatnot? How do you find them ready for their digital transformation? Over to you.
Usman, excellent question. I think I like the way you narrated it. Being in education sector for the past decade or so, I've very closely seen how the response of our learning experiences, and even if we look at the evolution of the education sector, before 2015, only access to education was considered a problem, and getting students in school was the highest priority. And it's only after 2015 when SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, were passed, quality of education became a criteria and something to focus on. However, we always struggled with education system in Pakistan in terms of integrating technology with it, and using technology or leveraging technology to address these educational challenges. And the big transformation we saw was with COVID, when the need to use technology was no longer a desire, an innovation. It was no longer a choice. It was actually the demand. It was, if they have to survive, then they had to adopt technology as they educate and they continue their schools, as they continue providing the learning experience, as they continue teaching the students and all. And even on a broader level, I feel COVID has really escalated the growth for adoption of products and for technology solutions in Pakistan. And as we sit here right now, I mean, the view is really amazing because it shows the promise of Pakistan. We have in front, these dozens of stalls by local companies in Pakistan, and we see the great work that they have been doing. And since I have become part of Pasha, we have specifically seen the promise that IT industry brings to the table and the way the growth has been over the past years. And now, the next step is what are the different bottlenecks and how can we really, take it 10 times in the next couple of years, and what are the factors which are, holding industry back. And it interestingly, lack of skilled resources and becomes again one of the challenges over here as well. True. And that's why we have been working on designing different solutions and designing different programs and working very closely with the industry and with academia on how can we address this gap and, but more importantly, really cultivate innovation in Pakistan that can serve both the local industry as well as develop products that can be scaled and can be exported across Pakistan as well.
Thank you. Badr, yours is a very enviable journey, sir. You've been involved with major public sector, private sector organizations, multinationals, Googles of the world. Now, you have seen it across multiple countries and how they have been transforming themselves, and you're part of Google. You understand from their viewpoint of what is important, what's not important. And now you are a major part of the Pakistan's e-commerce journey. You're actually drafting that roadmap. Now, in that whole e-commerce journey, we've been talking about there's a lot of factors that needs to be datized, a lot of points of delivery that needs to come together and work together. How have you seen from that e-commerce point of view? How have you seen that evolving overall, and where do you see the way forward? How possible it is, how attainable it is, and when?
Usman, thank you so much. First of all, really want to appreciate TechSavvy's contribution to the growth of IT industry as a very progressive public sector organization. And welcome to your new team. I can see the enthusiasm is already there. I think rightly so, because as we see the industry, so I think what we need to see is that IT industry alone has its own, of course, demand and supply. But I think the biggest contribution of IT industry comes in when a traditional IT industry actually intersects with non-tech sectors. Right. I think that intervention actually is the catalyst for digital transformation. And e-commerce is one of the IT-enabled services which actually intersects every retail sector possible. So whether it is services, whether it is products, from food to clothing to footwear to toys to anything, every industry gets intersected by digital technologies in the e-commerce space. And that's where the non-tech sector actually feels IT facilitating their business. Otherwise, a traditional organization used to feel IT as just a supporting kind of a function, giving them a laptop or maybe a LAN connectivity or internet. But the moment e-commerce comes in, they see their bottom line being affected by a positive change in terms of a new sales channel or a marketing channel for their actual retail business. So whether it is grocery during COVID, or whether it is clothing, a unique designer brand or anything, I think things, and what has happened is that the country at large beyond KLI has now started to get access to market. Just imagine someone, as you always give an example of Bakkar, just imagine someone sitting in Bakkar now being able to shop the same brand, which is probably accessible to all of us in about 20 kilometers radius, is now accessible to them who are at least 400, 500 kilometers away.
True.
So to them now, the access to market is virtually there. They have access to information already because of all the telecom indicators improving. So they have 4Gs, they have the smartphones in their hand at the palm, and they can see the new trends happening in the world. And now they can actually order the same thing just even without going to that mall or that shop.
Exactly.
So e-commerce is actually enabling not only the consumer side of technology adoption, but also the merchant side or the non-tech side as well. And that's where I think the whole country is experiencing how IT or technology can actually enable them with newer opportunities, both in terms of buying or selling. And I think it's not just the retail front end B2C, it is also the B2B part as well. The B2B part, as you see, we have a lot of new startups coming in the wholesale to retail B2B part. The retailers and the bazaars and all of those, as you see, Bazaar just raised $70 million yesterday. And the Tajers and the retail and the Jugnus of the world, they are all now digitizing the wholesale to retail part. E-commerce was digitizing the retail to consumer part. And I think we still are missing the actual B2B digitization yet. However, I think as Hira just highlighted, and I think we all realize that COVID has converted this want into a need. It was just a want. E-commerce was just probably less than 1% of the brick and mortar sales of a company, and hence was never given importance. And now everyone is considering e-commerce as their main stream of revenue. Absolutely. So I think so I love the beauty of IT enabling a non-IT sector, because that's where you reap the results very, very quickly. And I think that's what IT should be doing in terms of digital transformation. And once we do that, I think eventually what PSEB's agenda of growing exports, actually that will also enable. It also enables your non-IT sector exports as well, in addition to the IT one as well.
True. So on this note, Zishan Saab, now where Badr is talking about how IT is enabling the non-IT sector, KYC or an open KYC for banks to adopt, a single KYC for the entire country, probably written on a blockchain, can be accessible to all of the banks. How do you feel it is going to make a difference in A, the banking the unbanked, B, enforcing the CIBs to people who do not fear them right now, and D, how it is going to impact the exports of the country as well?
Sorry, just to add, I think it should not just be banks, but fintechs and aggregators as well.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
See, what it does is that, first of all, it gives visibility to a lot of IT companies working in this ecosystem. And it not only gives them visibility, it gives a lot of lending and services providing financial companies, fintech companies in terms of these IT companies. Rating is easy, so CIBs are generated, the ratings can be done, and accordingly exposure can be taken against these companies or for these companies. Obviously, when IT companies are using these facilities, they know now that first of all, there is a CIB system in place, there is a track, there is assets and liabilities, everything is there for everyone to actually see. But this also provides them power to actually scale themselves up through these financial institutions and the banks. What we have seen in our country so far is that a lot of IT companies, they're very good when it comes to IT, but when it comes to the financial side of things, they lack, I would say, a certain level of competence. What we are trying to do is to create that level of understanding within IT industry of financial models, financial products that are available in the market. So there is a chicken and egg in a way, but if we make sure that there is that visibility that is created, where these banks can provide them product and these IT institutions can actually take advantage of these products, everyone prospers. Not only IT industry, but fintechs and the financial institutions as well. The other thing that we have seen is that we are doing actually is we are trying to introduce around 40 IT companies on SCCP GEM board. What it does is the difference between obviously the main PSX and the GEM board is that there's a lot of requirements when it comes for a company to get listed on PSX. GEM board, it has reduced level of requirements. So these IT companies initially can go there. They can flirt with the idea of getting listed. They can actually get their companies capitalized through this process, and we create, so what it does is not only it provides our IT companies the needed capital, but it also provides the capital market with needed options for investment. And it also, so in the West you have a lot of these VCs, Ps, they just come out and just write a check to any good idea. We are trying to get there, and we are. And this is one option which is a very standardized option available for them. So some of the companies which are really an ideal contender for these capital market requirements, they are actually able to get listed on GEM board and actually capitalize on, attain their potential. So we are providing these things, and hopefully, inshallah, with time we'll see the effects of them in the future as well.
I think if I add to that, from industry's perspective, you know, there are a lot of requirements for the main board, and how GEM board really relaxes those requirements. That is a pathway for a company to get into that investment you know, round, and you know, get their documentation in order and really prepare for the bigger round.
True, and it makes it even more exciting for the investor from looking outside inside, and they would say, okay, you know, this is now a very thriving market all of a sudden. Ayub Shah Sahab, we've been discussing about how PEPRA can be datized, and you know, yesterday, you know, we were drafting ideas on how, you know, companies can be qualified, and how the bid documents can always be pre-received. So the major company, like company introduction documents and details of the companies, are already pre-received. And so give us a bit of understanding of that. You have a lot of understanding of PEPRA systems. Give us an understanding of that. How quickly can we do this, and what would be the model?
Digitization is a process that has a magic in it. So when you digitize a system, and particularly a system for the public procurement, you go onto the e-procurements, you learn how to optimize different processes. There is at the present, this manual system of bidding is too tedious. Every organization needs to make many documents called the bidding documents, and then the organization then coming in as bidders, they have to make a plethora of documents which go useless after the evaluation process. So if the PPRA, the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority, introduces a digital automated system, one, that this entire process will become easier and simpler. The bidding documents will already be there. The bidding documents, they comprise of the essential requirements and then the added requirements pertaining to that project. So the essentials will go standardized for everybody. The added requirements will have checklist and the entries in their forms, so nobody will like to miss any of the requirement. The documents will be complete, or the whole system will be complete. And then the evaluation system will become more automated, whereby there will be specific entries required to be made by both the buyer, the government entity going into the bidding process, and then the company, the firm coming in as an offerer. So they'll be specifically answering, say if the number of employees required is 450, they'll be answering 350, and they'll automatically be scored by the system itself. Now in the longer run, when this process will get automated and this will get going, the PPRA will have a pool of companies who are responding. They'll have a history of the companies who are completing their projects. They'll have an understanding and profiling of the companies as to which companies are really an A-level company with regards to their service delivery here. And that is how they will form a database ranking the companies, and then the government entities going for different kind of bidding processes will be able to choose and match from those companies. There'll be no requirement for pre-qualification, and as you said, there'll be no requirement for the bid money to be submitted for every bid that they come in, and there'll be no retrieval of the bid money. There'll be no requirement for a board been sitting for days and days to evaluate different companies in a comparative manner, and there'll be no requirement for failure being addressed by different kind of say verbosities and
so now you have created a task for yourself, and that is we, Pasha and PACB, we can put together a document regarding the datization of PEPRA, because Ayub Sir was telling me that.
Actually, sorry, this would also help with the Made in Pakistan narrative which we are trying to.
And Ayub Sir was telling me that out of $913 billion of PSDP fund, only 20% of that is operative right now because of all these issues. So
most SMEs can't even qualify, and they don't even try to bid because of the same issues.
And the process is very subjective. You know, you add these kind of systems in place that it becomes objective and it's very transparent.
So, Badr, coming to you, and then I'll close off with the lady. So, Pakistan single window, great initiative, and you would see how it is going to absolutely revolutionize our e-commerce potential. What do you think about it? It being on blockchain, what do you think? What can it do for us?
So absolutely, this is sorry, the single window thing we have already been experiencing in a way that we recently got an intervention done for the cross-border e-commerce part, and that's where the VBOC registration part, which was very mandatory for any export process to be outward bound, we got that exempted for SMEs and micro entrepreneurs and even artisans. So just imagine an artisan sitting in a remote area who just knows how to create some product will now be able to just ship it without considering what the compliance requirements are. So they just now need to go to their core company and ship it out, and they will become an exporter themselves, and the liability of the VBOC part will get to be done by the courier company. And actually with Pakistan single window, this will further be easier for anyone to go through the process. And I think, as I said earlier, this tech intervention in the non-tech sectors for e-commerce will actually enable a lot of small entrepreneurs and SMEs and micro entrepreneurs and artisans to actually convert themselves to actually exporters. They now have visibility of the global market through the internet. They just can't ship their product out of the country. Actually, there are a few other hurdles in terms of logistics and the cost of logistics. We're trying to work that out as well. But I think with digitization and automation of the process via Pakistan single window, I think we will. I mean, that gap between our imports and exports, I think we can immediately and easily overcome if we just improve the compliance. The cost of compliance and the time required for compliance.
And the steps and the number of middlemen who can be bypassed.
If we can just reduce that friction with Pakistan single window, I think a lot of people will get interested in exploring on how to export more.
Very excited for that. Final question, Hira, from you. Now you are seeing the entire industry, the tech companies. What do you think the readiness of our own tech companies to take on this challenge of digitization of the entire country?
Before I come for that, I think just on talking about the single window operation, we're talking about that. And then I want to talk about how important it is for it to be implemented for the ease of doing business in Pakistan. The key dilemma for the IT industry is that there's a huge majority of the time that is spent dealing in negotiations or documentations with so many government tedious processes, which can be solved if the single window operation is there. Coming to your actual question, when we talk about readiness, there are three things in that. First, will is absolutely there. I think IT industry being at the center of the digital transformation, they realize the need to even do it among themselves as well. So then the question comes that why is there a gap, or why is the second thing after will comes is skills. Do they have the capacity and capability to lead the digital transformation? And that's where our bottleneck lies. And the third thing is marketing. Even if they have capacity and capability and they're doing great work, there's so many companies in Pakistan which are doing such excellent work, but they are not really marketing it.
So a Pakistani professional is actually doing the digital transformation of Dubai, and a Pakistani company has won 28 out of 40 proof of concept for 40 different departments. So it's our company, but we probably won't give it a chance here. So this is where you see that we have to be a bit more receptive to our own companies rather than looking outwards all the time. Thank you very much, everybody. This is a wrap from Islamabad, or from Lahore. I'm grateful to all my panelists here. Good luck and good night, Lahore.